Preparing for your interview. I want you to think about your job search as a marketing campaign and your job interview as a marketing presentation. Now, I don't care what terminology, specific terminology you use, but in these general terms, I know I've used terms like your brand or your narrative or uh, your marketing campaign kind of interchangeably. So choose the terminology that you can wrap your head around. I like the idea of thinking of it as a narrative because I think in story that's kind of my thing. Uh, and so narrative, thinking of it as a narrative really works for me, but you figure out what works best for you. So I've talked about audience before when you were writing your resume, thinking about who your audience was, and it might be a number of different audiences. And so you have to, in some way or another, speak to each of these audiences at various times, depending upon who is reading your resume first, second, third, and so on. So I want to continue to encourage you to think of your audience because this is something that you're good at. You've spent the last 3 years learning about how to analyze an audience, to establish and articulate a purpose, to be aware of a medium and how what the particular strengths and weaknesses of a medium are, all for the purpose of persuasion. So this is what you're doing. This is what you're doing throughout this entire process. Even, do I want to say even more during the interview? Maybe not even more, but certainly during the interview as well. So this is all part of persuading this audience that you are right for this job. And you are good at this. Many people haven't spent 3 years learning to analyze audiences and establish purposes and understand how to persuade, but you have, so you've got this. So again, think of your job search as a marketing campaign and your job interview as a marketing presentation. Think of it as likely the final chapter in the branding narrative that you began with your cover letter. So this is, you've worked on this, you started with a cover letter, you went to the resume, you've developed a portfolio, and now you're putting it all together. They're actually seeing you. And this is your chance to really show who your professional you is. Who is that unique collection of skills, experience, characteristics, and values? What qualifies you to do a specific job particularly well? You are selling you. So, how effectively you pitch your product and differentiate it from the others that are out there, the other people who are applying for this job, will determine whether or not you get that job offer that you want. So, it can be really useful to think of your interviewer as your potential client, because I think can understand we can understand an interviewer in terms of them being a client. That terminology works for most of us. So you need to understand how your client makes their buying decisions. They are buying your skill set. That's what they're doing. They're purchasing, they're going to pay you money. So they are purchasing your skill set. You want to understand what your customers or your client wants to buy. So you need to identify what you have that's for sale and that they might want to buy, so that you can tailor your sales pitch or your interview responses to your customers' needs, and then sell what you have to offer. A lot of this is preparation, 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 preparation. And that's what this course is all about. If you've done the work, if you've done the legwork, if you've looked at the job postings and you've developed cover letters and resumes and so on, you've done a lot of that legwork. But you really need to make sure that you're prepared. Again, I'll say it, an employer is purchasing your skill set. So if you don't show them that they have something, that you have something of value to sell them, they're not going to hire you. They want to know that you will help their organization work smoothly. So this is what your potential employer is looking for. They're looking for ability and suitability. You must demonstrate an ability to do the work, that you are in full possession of the technical skills necessary to execute the job's responsibility, and that you have a clear grasp of the role your job is going to play within the organization, the company, the business, whatever it is. You must also establish your suitability for the job. You possess a body of knowledge that helps you understand, well, in your case, how the communications profession works, or your particular branch of the communications profession. You speak the language of your industry, and you understand the challenges that your industry exists to help people solve. So, and this is so very true for communication specialists. Communications is very much about problem solving. I'm going to tell you a little story. This happened a long time ago. My kids went to a rural school, and there was an instructor there. Let's call her Matilda. That's not her real name, but we'll say her name was Matilda. She had been the choir instructor at the school. And so when the position of band instructor opened up, she applied for it and she got it. And I've always been mystified by how she managed to get into this position, because she was not qualified for the job at all. She could barely read music at a very rudimentary level. And I mean, she'd been fine as her job as the leader of the choir, because I think she'd sung in her church choir, and she was good with the kids. She was likable, all of these things. But she did not have the technical skills, the technical knowledge to be a band instructor. And this ended up being a pretty big problem. My daughter was studying French horn at the time, and I remember on one occasion, this instructor had tried to transpose the music into the key that was required for the French horn, and it was a task that was beyond her. And so my daughter ended up playing all the wrong notes, and yeah, that was the end of that for her, because she just got very frustrated and kind of embarrassed, and so she didn't want to take band anymore, didn't want me to talk to the instructor, and that was the end of that. So it was unpleasant, it was damaging. I'm sure it was damaging for other students as well. She wouldn't have been able to answer questions or give the guidance that were required. She simply lacked the skills for it. She didn't know what she didn't know. And so when I think back about this, how did she get the job? Well, she appeared to know the technical skills. She appeared to have the ability to do the work, and she appeared to have the suitability as well. So I think we can learn a little bit of a lesson from this. She appeared at the right place at the right time. She would have been a relatively cost-free alternative for this position. The school wouldn't have had to add someone to their payroll, and this would have been seen as a good thing. And perhaps the people who were hiring her didn't know what they didn't know either. They probably didn't have a background in music, so didn't recognize what was necessary. And at the time, the province had done some serious cutbacks to various arts and music programs. She displayed self-confidence. She was a really confident individual. Like I said before, she was likable. She appeared to have these skills, and she did have a little bit of knowledge, enough knowledge to make whoever hired her think that she had enough for the job, I guess. But the job wasn't a top priority for the school, and so she was able to slip in. I know she and her husband were also well known and well liked within the community. So this is not in any way an endorsement for someone who is not skilled at the job, at a job, to try to get into that job. I mean, Matilda did a great deal of damage in that position, and that's not what you want. I simply bring this up because I want to see through the eyes of the audience. In this case, the audience was likely, I'm going to guess it was the principal, although I don't know for sure, probably the principal of the school. He thought he was getting what he needed for that position. He thought he was hiring someone who had the ability and the suitability for the job based on this individual's past performance. So Matilda knew that she was able to present herself in a way that was appealing to this particular audience. And so she ended up getting this job. So again, think about your audience. Think about coming from their perspective. And again, this does not mean to be deceitful or to misrepresent yourself in any way. But understanding your audience is vitally important. Vitally important.